Welcome to Rebel Speak and Isaiah Meanderings. Today we're looking at chapter 9 in the book of Isaiah. And, well, there's so much about this chapter that's beautiful. There's declarations that those of us that have grown up around church on Christmas, we recognize. It says, a light will shine on all who live in the land where death casts its shadow. Israel will be great again, and its people will rejoice as people rejoice at harvest time. Okay, there's this promise of continuance in the midst of imminent destruction for the northern kingdom. And Isaiah is speaking to the southern kingdom that they need to change their ways, but there's imminent destruction for the northern kingdom. That's not the final story. And that's what the book of Isaiah says so clearly. They will shout with joy like warriors dividing their plunder, for God will break the chains that bind his people and the whip that scourges them. And there's just that, there's such a powerful word, scourge. The whip that tears the flesh. Oppression tears us down. Oppressive circumstances, oppressive situations tear us down. And there's God. He's going to come in and break that chain. He's going to destroy that whip. For God will break the chains that bind his people and the whip that scourges them, just as he did when he destroyed the army of Midian with Gideon's little band. Well, Midian is this power that's so much greater that Gideon is found hiding. I'm pretty sure he's making wine, but no, maybe he's doing something. He's hiding. Because he has something, I think maybe it's bread, I don't know, I'm not remembering. But Gideon is hiding when the angel of the Lord finds him and calls him a mighty man. He doesn't seem very mighty. And then later in that story, he's going to war. And he has to cut his army, like, I don't know what, but huge. Like, he brings his army down to little. And it's with a little band, with a little army, they take on and destroy a great enemy. And so there's that here's the thing. You are going to be able to destroy your enemies, even though your enemies are very mighty. The mightiness of the enemies is not going to be the final story. It's not going to, it's their might is not the final say, and the size of their might, the greatness and the vastness of their might is not the final say. In that day of peace, battle gear will no longer be issued. Never again will uniforms be bloodstained by war. All such equipment will be burned. These are the longings. This is the day that the book of Isaiah longs for. Okay, there's these glimpses of ultimate, right? Ultimate reality. Ultimate reality. Ultimate reality is not meant to have uniforms for war, right? Battle gear will no longer be issued. Never again will uniforms be bloodstained by war. All such equipment will be burned because there will be no need for them. That's where God's going. That's God's vision. That's God's plan. For a child is born to us, a son is given to us, and the government will rest on his shoulders. There will be this goodness. And what's being spoken about here in the actual book of Isaiah is Hezekiah, this amazing king that's following his father Ahaz. But we all know that this is really referencing in its fullness and completeness the Messiah, Jesus Christ, the baby born in the manger at Christmas, right? That what we celebrate, the goodness. So it says, these will be his royal titles: Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, and that beautiful shalom. Peace in the Old Testament, where there's just a vibrance of life. It's not a quiet. It's in the fullness of life. There's fullness of meaning. Shalom. His ever-expanding peaceful government will never end. He will rule forever with fairness and justice from the throne of his ancestor David. The passionate commitment of the Lord Almighty will guarantee this. Wow. God stands by that guarantee. He stands by that guarantee. Or at the manger, right? At the manger, at the birth of Jesus, to this precious young woman, all alone giving birth, no family present. There is God's guarantee that the story is not over. The story of, some of us are caught up in stories of corruption and disappointment, of violence and terror. They're heartbreaking stories, but the love of God outshines that story. The goodness of God is bringing that story. It's forcing the stories, these sub-stories that are full of human destruction, pain, where human worth is so degraded by it's fraught with pain. But the will of God is in the midst, turning tables and bringing forth life and bringing forth clarity. And now this chapter, this book of Isaiah, has gone from this proclamation of a great king coming that we know even more fully, because Hezekiah does really good stuff. He's a really good king. But we know he can't live up to all that was just spoken. It's Jesus who's our wonderful counselor, our mighty God, our everlasting Father, our Prince of Peace, the one the increase of his government will never end. That's such good news. But here we're going to see there's going to be a shift. And I sometimes do wonder why I love these verses, because they're so telling again about human nature and human conduct and human power. I'm not a huge fan of human power. I'm not a huge fan of power that doesn't bend truly its knee to Jesus Christ, that doesn't truly submit to the Prince of Peace. The Lord has spoken out against the braggart Israel. Israel is that northern kingdom. And the people of Israel and Samaria will soon discover it. Samaria is the capital of Ephraim. And what happens in Scripture, it happens in a lot of books where you have different names and they all mean the same thing. Israel is Ephraim, Samaria is its capital. Okay. God has spoken out to the people of Israel and Samaria, and they will soon discover it. Okay, but listen to this. This is fascinating to me. In their pride and arrogance, they say, "Our land lies in ruins now, but we will rebuild it better than before. We will replace the broken bricks with cut stone, at the fallen sycamore trees with cedars." Okay, so what they're saying now is, okay, things are not good. They're not looking good, but you know what? We're going to build it back, and we're going to build it back better. We're going to build it back better. That's what we're going to do. Yes, we're going to build it back better. In their pride and arrogance, they say, our land, it's lying in ruins right now. We're not going to ask God for help. No, we've got this covered. We're going to do it better. Yes, the bricks are broken, but we're going to replace them with cut stone. Okay, cut stone costs way more than broken bricks. Cut stone, way more than broken bits. Yes, and sycamore trees have fallen down. Well, sycamore trees are not nearly as nice as cypress. We're gonna make it better. Watch us. We're gonna make it better. We've got it. We're gonna replace those old sycamore trees with cedars. Oh yeah, here they are. God is dealing with them, and there's no wake-up call. There's no wake-up call in their mind. There's no, I think we might need to turn to God. We might need to turn to God's wisdom. We might need to ask God for help. No, he calls them a braggart because they think that they are above the law of destruction. They think that they can, we've got the means. Their whole nationhood status is falling apart. Oh no, we're going to make it even better than it, we're going to build back better. That's what I feel. We're going to build back better. The Lord will reply to their bragging by bringing Rezin's enemies like the Assyrians against them. They're going to know powers greater than themselves. Along with Arameans from the east and Philistines from the west. Okay, listen to this. With bared fangs, your enemies will devour you, Israel. There will be no holding back because God's not holding them back. These enemies, you are this little tiny nation surrounded by lots of enemies, and you think you're all that, but they're going to bare their fangs and they're going to devour you. But even then, the Lord's anger will not be satisfied. His fist is still poised to strike, for after all this punishment, the people will still not repent and turn to the Lord Almighty. So I'm just going to leave it. There's more of the same in chapter 9. But I just want to leave thinking about that. This thing in human nature that really believes, I feel to say, is conditioned somehow in sin to believe that it is able to behave any way it wants, to function in a way that gives no mind to the creator of the universe, gives no mind to the God in whose image we are made, give no mind to never ponder what it means to be a created creature in a world that was designed to be good, that our lives glorify God. That this braggart, what a word, this thing that has no shame. I have no shame. There's no consequences. They've convinced themselves there's nothing beyond themselves and they're accountable to no one. And they think that they can just be destructive and turn around and make everything be all right. And it's not true. It's not real. There's no anxiety. There's no King Hezekiah, I just mentioned. A good king, when things go wrong, he's going to tear his clothes. He's going to lie prostrate before God. He's going to cry out for help. This is a much wiser response. Not a desperate begging. Sometimes I can see people where they're in a bad place and they kind of beg to God, and God's for us. When David, the king, who's really loves and trusts God, when things go poorly for David, he comes to God kind of not ashamedly, but confidently, knowing, God, I have sinned. Only you can make this right. I can't. My sins condemn me. But I'm not begging. You can make it right, and I know you will because it's your character. God, make it right. I trust you. I trust your goodness in the midst of my shortcomings. I trust your goodness for Hezekiah, the king that comes later. I trust we as a nation turn to you because of your goodness and your kindness of heart. I'm not stepping away. However you lead us, whatever we have to walk through, it's going to be good. You're going to get us to a good end because it's your character, God, and we know it. See, that's that knowledge. I know the character. Paul, I know the character of the one in whom I've trusted my whole entire life. Hezekiah, we know your character, God. We know this, how well you work for those who lean in and trust in you. Versus the braggart, this northern Israel that has never trusted God enough to worship correctly. They've never trusted God enough to worship correctly. And so they're not even looking. They're saying, they've come to their own conclusion of what's the best way to approach this disaster. Oh, just to lie to ourselves and say, no, we're not going to be crushed and ruined by Assyria. We're going to be in denial. We're going to say, don't worry. We're going to just get it all back better. It's going to be all back. We're going to build it all back better. While the signs of destruction and ruin are all around them. And there's no humility. And there's no saying, God, you know what? We have so sinned. We've been so arrogant. We've taken you so for granted. We're so sorry. How would you have us proceed that we may look more like you? We can be the people you desire us to be. How do we move forward in a manner that brings true glory and righteousness and goodness and laughter to your heart, God? We were created. We were created for your good pleasure. Show us how to be the people that bring joy to you. Show us, God, how do we follow you? I long to be in your presence, God. I long to be in your presence, God. I long to bring you glory. I don't want to keep moving in this disastrous pattern. I don't want to see the disasters that follow me. I'm tired of deceiving myself and saying somehow I can make up for my disasters that I've created. I'm tired, God. I can't. I'm tired of bargaining with you. I'm tired of being in a desperate place where I don't know you well enough to trust you, so I bargain with you, and the bargaining doesn't really create something new and better. It might assuage my guilt for a little while, but it doesn't bring me to a new way, a new place, a new land. God, I want something new. And that's what the book of Isaiah promises. God bless you.